Good evening and welcome to CYC News for the 15th of March 2020 and the 6th of Baramhad 1736 AM. I'm Anastasia Attia. In today's headlines, Xi Jinping visits Wuhan as China turns corner on coronavirus. UK Health Minister tests positive for coronavirus, days after attending an event with Boris Johnson. Putin backs amendment which could see him run Russia until 2036. Cities deserted, families separated and social life on hold in Italy lockdown. Saudi Arabia detains members of its royal family. A breakdown of US coronavirus cases. Thrilling RB Leipzig dump Jose Mourinho and Tottenham out of the Champions League. But first to China, where President Xi Jinping has made his first visit to Wuhan since the novel coronavirus outbreak began more than 2 months ago as new cases of the virus slowed to a trickle in the city, where the disease first began. Xi's visit to Wuhan, which has been on lockdown for weeks now, with tens of thousands of confirmed cases of the virus and hundreds of deaths, is a major show of confidence in China's response to the pandemic, underlining a message which has been building in state media that the country has turned a corner. As of Thursday, there have been 80,793 cases of the virus confirmed across China, 67,760 of which were in Hubei, the province of which Wuhan is the capital. At its worst, Hubei was reporting thousands of new cases per day. Last Monday, China's National Health Commission said there were only 17 new cases confirmed in the province, with 2 others in the parts of the country. Both were linked to overseas travel. The progress in China, which has come on the back of weeks of widespread travel restrictions, government-enforced lockdowns and economic pain, is in stark contrast to other parts of the world where the situation is growing increasingly. To the United Kingdom now, where a health minister in Boris Johnson's government has become the first British MP to test positive for coronavirus, raising fears about the potential spread of the disease in Westminster. Nadine Dorries, who attended an International Women's Day event with the Prime Minister and his fiancée, Kerry Sinons, in Downing Street last week, said she is now in self-isolation. Health officials are now racing to trace those who have had contact with Dorries, who has kept a busy diary of engagement in and around the UK's political centre. In a statement, Dorries, a junior health minister, said, "I can confirm I have tested positive for coronavirus. As soon as I was informed, I took all the advised precautions and have been self-isolating at home." On Twitter, she added, "It's been pretty rubbish, but I hope I'm over the worst of it now. More worried about my 84-year-old mum who was staying with me and began with the cough today. She is being tested tomorrow." Her diagnosis also raises questions about whether Britain's Parliament will need to be temporarily shut down. Officials confirmed that there are still no plans to take such a step. Coronavirus cases in the UK now number at nearly 400. Over to Russia now, where President Vladimir Putin could stay in power until 2036, after lawmakers voted in favour of a last-ditch proposal to reset the clock on the leader's presidential term count in an updated version of the constitution. Under current Russian law, Putin is required to step down as president in 2024, when his second consecutive term in office comes to an end. The proposed constitution amendment was brought by MP Valentina Tereshkova, a loyal Putin supporter, and called for the presidential term limit to either be scrapped or simply for Putin to be allowed to run for president again. Tereshkova added her proposal to a package of other constitutional amendments, just 20 minutes before MPs voted on a slew of sweeping constitutional reforms. The amendments will go through 2 more rounds of approval in Parliament and will need to get clearance from the Constitutional Court before they are put to Russian people in a public vote on April 22nd. Putin backed the proposal amendment, saying the second proposal, which means removing obstacles for any Russian citizen, including the incumbent president, and allowing them to run in the next presidential election. This will be possible in principle only if the Constitutional Court officially rules that this is not against the main law. Putin is currently serving his 4th term as president. To Italy now, and famous tourist sites are deserted. Bargoers kept at arm's length front each other and worried citizens stand in line outside once bustling stores after drastic restrictions were imposed to contain the deadliest coronavirus outbreak outside China. There was confusion across the country on the first day of a national lockdown that includes a ban on all public events, the closure of schools and public spaces, including museums and movie theatres, and the suspension of religious services, including funeral or weddings. Hundreds of seats lay eerily empty in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican, which was closed to tourists on Tuesday. Like many people here, the Pope was shut away behind closed doors, but he asked priests to have the courage to visit those affected by coronavirus in his daily live stream from his private residence. Lydia Corelli, a 26-year-old intern at the Italian Supreme Court in Rome, said, "This is the strangest situation that I've ever lived. These restrictions are similar to limits of war. I do think all of this was necessary. People must follow the suspensions to respect all of the people that have died and continue to die. It's incredible to think that the habits from one place can have a global impact. When we end this time of isolation, we have to really think our lifestyle." As a 6 p.m. curfew came into effect in Rome on Tuesday, the restaurants and bars that usually bring the city to life in the evenings were closed, and only a few buses ran along their usual routes. Moving on to Saudi Arabia now, and 2 senior royals are among several members of the royal family arrested last Friday, confirming an apparent bid to consolidate Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's power. The brother of Saudi Arabia's King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud and a former grown prince weren't among those detained. One Saudi Arabia source, who requested an anonymity for fear of reprisal, said on Sunday. He said the senior royals detained included Prince Ahmed bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, a brother of the King Salman, and Prince Mohammed bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, the king's nephew. Prince Ahmed was arrested along with a security detail while the prince had been on vacation in Morocco and was arrested 2 days after returning to the kingdom. The detentions, which were first reported by the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, have now been announced by the Saudi government or state media. To some health news, and governments are working to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus in the US, as federal officials say more testing will likely to see the number of known cases continue to increase. There were at least 1,636 cases and 41 deaths across 47 states and the District of Columbia as of March 12. The national figure includes 70 people repatriated to the US, 46 from the Diamond Princess cruise ship, 21 on the Grand Princess cruise ship, and 3 from China. The states most affected in descending order by number of COVID-19 cases are Washington State with 457 cases and 31 deaths, New York with 328 cases, California with 175 cases and 4 deaths, and Massachusetts with 108 cases. And in sport, outplayed, outgunned, and outcoached Jose Mourinho was powerless to stop his Tottenham side suffering a Champions League exit at the hands of RB Leipzig. Mourinho lamented his injury crisis after the first leg, describing the defeat as going into a gunfight without bullets. On Tuesday, Mourinho didn't even have the luxury of turning up to the second leg with an empty gun. Leipzig was again totally dominant for 90 minutes, only this time they took advantage with 2 early goals to seal a 3-0 win courtesy of captain Marcel Sabitzer's brace and Emil Forsberg's late strike. With just 2 draws and 4 defeats from his last 6 matches, Mourinho is currently suffering the longest winless streak of his 935-match managerial career and is without a win in the Champions League knockout stages for 6 years. After the match, Mourinho said, "I was very positive yesterday, and that's the way I have to be all the time. If I'm not positive, it's better not to come to the game. Yes, I'm positive, I motivate the players, and yes, we all believed, but we know that in this moment, it's all very difficult." And that's all for CYC News. A reminder that you can watch this news bulletin again throughout the week on YouTube. I'm Anastasia Attia from the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia. Have a good night.